Belichick's lost a step to me.
I'm not going to do this.
This is Anik Squared.
With the 262nd and final selection in the 2022 NFL Draft, the San Francisco 49ers select Brock Purdy, quarterback, Iowa State, right? Welcome to Anik Squared. It is episode 14 already. It is Wednesday, December 7th, 2022. My name is Jason Anik, joined by my identical twin brother, Jon Anik. Actually, I'm thrilled not to be in the same location as you this week. Not going to lie. Little distance.
Why? I thought it was great being in the same room.
Yeah?
Good to be back with you. Things have tightened up as far as you and I are concerned. So when I was pledging Theta Chi fraternity in Gettysburg College in the late 1990s, in terms of the hazing, it wasn't too bad for us, right? And ours was condensed, 5 weeks versus 8 or even longer for some, right? But sometimes on this show, I feel like I'm getting hazed a little bit, you know, and thankfully for me, there's no soundtrack of any gloating now that things have tightened up, right? It's not as though I was gloating when I had the 5-0 week, right? I wasn't puffing out my chest because I know this league will come back to bite you. And as far as our bet is concerned, and the 5 tequila shots are 6.5 an hour, the only thing that I have that's experience was at Theta Chi fraternity, Jägermeister. And we're chugging tequila here, and it's going to be half as many shots. So if I got to pay it off, so be it. But we need some wins.
I hear you. So just to let y'all know, anyone who hasn't watched the show before, each week we pick 5 NFL games against the spread. We go against each other. Our ultimate goal being to submit 4 selections for the Circa Million 4 Pro Football Contest, the Circa Sportsbook. We submit 5 games against the spread there. So we'll get into that later after we get into our 5 head-to-head picks. So what I will say about our head-to-head picks, one thing that I thought would be fascinating with this show was to see how many sides we ended up on the same side, see how many games on which we ended up on the same side. And prior to last week, we had only been on the same side of one game in any given week. But last week in our 5 selections, we're on 4 of the same games out of 5. Pick 4 of the same games. I said last week, I know we're going to go 2-2. That we did, but we only had one side different, one game that we weren't both on last week. We had talked about prior to last week, and I mentioned this on last week's show, that if I picked, let's say, Lions against the Jaguars, even if you like the Lions, you can't be on them, right? We got to be on opposite sides, or you can't be on the same side. So that's what we're doing moving forward. So as we get into our selections for next week, for week 14, or this coming week, if I throw out a selection, if that happens to be in John's 5, he can't go with it. I like that twist. You?
All right. Yeah, great.
All right, moving on. So week 13 results, as I said, we're on 4 of the same side. We went 2-2 in those games. So the 2 games we dumped, I'll get into the bad one first, Titans +5 at Eagles. You know, you had said last week you like the AFC over the NFC there. And yeah, I guess, you know, the Titans just, they're a one-dimensional team, and they were zero-dimensional in that game. Couldn't run, couldn't pass. And to me, ultimately, their division in the AFC kind of puts them in that spot. And I wish I had the wherewithal. If you recall, Mike Vrabel was not happy with that A.J. Brown trade. John Robinson gets fired yesterday, by the way. But I would have maybe liked A.J. Brown to have a good game against his team. So that selection I didn't love. Second one that we dumped, Dolphins +3.5 at 49ers. I think it closed at 4. It was kind of close for a while, but no matter who's playing quarterback, 49ers defense just too tough. Those were the 2 losses. 2 wins, we had Bills -5 the Thursday night at the Patriots. That closed at 3.5. which blew my mind. We got that at 3.5 in the contest. We'll get into that later. We're both on the Raiders +2 versus the Chargers. They win by a touchdown. So 2-2 there. My 5th selection was the Giants +2.5 versus Commanders. Guess it's good to take the points. A tie. I know you had given reasons why you wouldn't bet on either of those teams, which makes a lot of sense to me in that situation. Obviously, it ends in a tie. But for me, that tie is going to play a factor in that postseason picture. But for me, I did hit that Giants +2.5. So 3-2 for me. You were 2-3. I pick up a game. So I am now 3 games back. You're 2-3, obviously 4 of which were similar or the same as mine. Your final selection, what a square play. You want to tell us about that one?
Well, I'll just say, just in totality, Dolphins +3.5 at the 49ers. I still would come back and play the Dolphins as I did on the money line. I still believe in the Dolphins. Maybe my ticket on them at +180 now midseason to win the AFC East is not necessarily going to pan out. They have another tough road game this weekend at the LA Chargers, so I think we're really going to find out what Miami is made of. And that +3, +100 on LA at home right now is a little bit juicy, but I do believe in the Dolphins, and it stands to reason that they can put up a 30 rack this weekend. Nobody can stop Tyreek Hill. I think the question beckons just how healthy is Tua. As far as the Jaguars are concerned, the game was never close, and I think it more is a statement about Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions, right? This is a unified bunch. I mean, maybe the Detroit Lions are just for real, and I need to stop fading them, and you can be sure, even though Minnesota is enticing in some way to me this weekend, I'm going to lay off because out of respect for Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions, ripped up too many tickets trying to fade that outfit this year. So, we lick our wounds at 2-3.
It's interesting you bring up the Lions, and come Sunday, like I Anik Squared, I guess a fitting name. I tend to do parlays. I like to parlay the NFL. So for me, the Lions was the one close game that was sort of in all of my parlays. I just love them this weekend. Did you like Jacksonville come Sunday?
I did not have an individual ticket on either side.
Yeah, it's just interesting. And I will say, I watched Hard Knocks, and there was so much to like. And I felt like I maybe just missed the boat there. So I'm very happy to see them, win 3 in a row,
right.
Make a little
run.
Well,
and according to some people, right, heaven forbid you lean into the intangibles. And I would always say, too, on the UFC side, right, when we would have the Ultimate Fighter, it's a lens into what these guys are doing and what they're about. I mean, you mean to tell me that if there's a reality show leading up to a potential mixed martial arts contest that, you can't potentially get a lens into maybe who a fighter is and what his work ethic is? I'm all for using anything, right? And if you think that that's a unified bunch and that helps you, win a bet on the Detroit Lions and it isn't, part of some official statistical database, power to you. So, go Detroit Lions. Keep winning football games.
I love it. All right, so heading into week 14, you dip below 500 at an embarrassing 32-33. I'm 3 games back of that, 28-35-2, but 3 games back. So the Circa Million 4 Pro Football Contest results are 5 picks for week 13. An unfortunate 2-3. Heading into week 13, we were 32-25-3. We now sit at 34-28-3 in the contest. So 6 games over 500, which is mediocre at best. Our 2 hits last week, Bills at Patriots, first game -3.5 the Thursday night. You bet this -210 on the money line. Should have made a small fortune there, no?
Yeah, no, we obviously expedited the Circa picks to make sure that we were able to get the Buffalo Bills in there. I really wish we had gotten the Jets +3 home. A lot of opportunities to get that ticket home. And I don't know. It's just amazing in terms of my disposition for the week, what a 3-2 in the contest will do versus a 2-3. But it is what it is. We got a big UFC pay-per-view this weekend, so I can't cry in my my Special K for too long. But, man, I wanted to get that Jets-Vikings game home so bad. But, yes, I mean, candidly, as we sit here Wednesday, December 7th, the Bills-Patriots game feels like a lifetime ago.
Right? Well, so that was our first hit, Bills -3.5 at Patriots. And I'll talk about the Jets quickly because you did. So we had Jets +3 at Vikings in the contest. Man, that was a tough game. A lot of chances to win. I don't really mind that selection there. I definitely bet on the Vikings on the money line, felt almost fortunate there. So that's 1-1. Our second hit taking us to 2-1. Steelers -1 at Falcons. Gotta love that. Wouldn't want to see TJ Watt and company come playoff time. Mike Tomlin just keep that train moving, right? Sitting 5-7. They get a shot, man. You go 9-8. I think you might be able to get that 7 seed. So, they got Lamar at home next week, Ravens at home without Lamar at home, 2.5-point favorite. So anyway, that was our second hit. So Bills and Steelers, the hit. We lose the Jets +3. We lose the Titans +4.5 at Eagles. We don't even need to get into that. Just on a bad side.
Find
there.
a better. Eagles probably going to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl or have a great chance to do so, respect to the Dallas Cowboys and the Niners and anybody else. But yeah, find a better ticket than fading the Eagles at home.
So our final loss, Dolphins +4 at 49ers. Vegas knew here, whoever's playing quarterback, right? So 49ers are legit. I heard a 49ers fan call a radio show this week talking about how, Jimmy Garropolo was a piece, but not that important. Same with Trey Lance, but Brock Purdy, it's like 1 of 22. It's like you just do your job, you slot right in. So he doesn't necessarily think, and he seemed to be a knowledgeable guy, doesn't necessarily think their chances are any worse, no matter who's there, even Mr. Irrelevant. Fascinating to me. So 2-3 going in. And I will say, we'll stay right on there. So to me, a couple teams that we just mentioned in the NFL. So Lions and Raiders, right? Both got up off the mat, right? Derek Carr cries after they lose to Jeff Saturday's debut with the Colts. Won 3 straight since. Both teams 5-7. I think they have a shot. Even the Bengals 0-2 are now 8-4, won 4 straight. So I think things are starting to crystallize a little bit in the National Football League. Anything for you before we get into week 14 that you want to get into?
Well, I obviously think it's interesting what the commies, the Washington Commanders, are dealing with, right? They go tie against the New York Giants, bye week, and then they play that same team again. So that is a huge game coming up 2 weeks from now. I mentioned the Miami Dolphins, the Raiders, obviously, with the quick turn. By the time a lot of people ingest this show, they will have already played against the Rams on Thursday night. I do think they win that game. But my Raiders ticket to win the AFC is still alive. The Patriots are going to lose in Vegas this season. We move on.
I like it. So just a couple notes from week 13. It's like Russell Wilson, man. It's like this guy just can't be sleeping well at night at all. Just 3-9. I mean, I was sleeping next to Sierra. You have to think you would sleep very well at night. But just got to be a nightmare for him. And I looked at some of his numbers, like eight touchdowns and 11 starts. I mean, this guy, it gave up a lot there. I believe Seattle gets the first rounder coming back. I can understand it's a tough division, blah, blah, but I don't think anyone expected to be this bad.
Some people are suggesting it's the worst contract in pro sports right now. And nobody wants that guilt. I don't care what your salary is. You want to earn it, I would think. But his bankroll's fatter than yours. And
yeah, so is Aaron Judge.
Life.
And Aaron Judge, I mean, happy for Aaron Judge, but I think that contract is not going to look good in a few years. Just shifting to baseball. Speaking of bad contracts,
Oh,
guys,
did he sign? I've been living in the hole.
Yeah, pinstripes. Easy out in the postseason, but that's a baseball conversation.
I love Aaron Judge. What was the number on the contract?
360
for how many years?
9, I believe, versus the 213 they offered prior to last season.
Yeah, good for him.
One more. So I just want to, before we get into week 14, right? So my top 3 NFC teams, I have Eagles, Cowboys, 49ers. You just mentioned those 3 names. Interestingly enough, I left out the Vikings for whatever reason. I just, show me you're an underdog at Detroit this weekend. So go win that game, and then maybe I'll put you in the top 3. And then for me in the AFC, Bills, Chiefs, Bengals. Any discrepancy for you from those top 3 from each conference?
The AFC is really interesting because health is going to be wealth, I think, for a lot of these teams. I do think it's wide open, but Joe Burrow is definitely starting to emerge, and maybe emergent is not the right adjective for him, but just in terms of being a top 3 or top 5 guy, without question. And I think it dovetails nicely into some of my selections this week, but he's certainly a guy that I'm going to be looking to back going forward, and that is a definite home field advantage in Cincinnati. They passed the test against elite teams, and I'm excited to see what Joe Burrow can do moving forward because, I know the Super Bowl happened early in his career, but I think he gets back to one of these things.
Oh, I think he hoists one, no question in my mind. And for me, health is a big part of it, and if they can protect him, but you think on a plane ride to Buffalo or Kansas City, you don't think them boys rallying around him, thinking you can go in there and win that fucking football game? And that, to me, call it intangible, whatever it is, that matters. Rallying around one another, playing for each other, chemistry, it matters. Moving into week 14, head-to-head selection. So keep in mind for the Circa Pro Football Contest, we sit 6 games over 500. It is what it is. You get 1 point for every correct selections, half a point for each push. This is the last week any NFL team has a bye. So the teams on bye this week: Atlanta, Chicago, Green Bay, Indianapolis, New Orleans, and the Washington football team. I love saying that. Anyway, so I think you deserve the distinction of going first under the new format. You have a 3-game lead. You should go first, given that.
I don't give a shit.
Go.
A lot of teams on the bye.
Go.
I care more about that than who goes first. So I looked at the Raiders, but I don't want to lay a bunch of points on the road. I do think the Rams are still going to play hard for Sean McVay, but Raiders -6 at Rams. I'm going to maybe try to figure out a way to have a teaser ticket involving the Vegas Raiders because I expect they will keep it going. But first selection for me, and this has been me just beating this drum, broken record all year with varying degrees of success. How many points are the Buffalo Bills going to score in a home game, ladies and gentlemen, right? How many times have we asked that question on Anik Squared this year? Bills -9.5 at the New York Jets. Anything under 10 is good for me. The Jets won the first meeting back in November, 20-17. Josh Allen threw a couple picks. He was sacked 5 times. I like the Jets. I do. I think they play hard. I think they have a lot of good players. Garrett Wilson obviously has emerged, and Mike White doing things. Maybe the Jets even score 24, but I think there's a good chance that the Bills get to 37. So I'll go Buffalo 37, New York Jets 24. Happy to lay a big number with the Buffalo Bills as usual, and hopefully we get it home.
So that Raiders rant, they are not in your 5.
No.
All right, well, they might be if you end up on a similar side to me. We'll see what happens. I like where you started. My first selection, and it is at the top of my list, is the Jets plus 9.5 at the Buffalo Bills going against you. So it happened naturally. Just too many points. I think the Jets hang around here. I love Robert Saleh. And by the way, for you, anyone who watches John's podcast, MMA podcast, the Anik and Florian podcast, pronunciation of the week, sometimes these pronunciations can be a little challenging. Robert Saleh isn't. He emphasized the first syllable. So you've beaten that one up a few times. I love how he handles the microphone, talking about it being Mike White's opportunity. And they beat him was Zach Wilson starting? I should know that information, but the Jets beat them with Zach Wilson. To me, it's just too many points. I don't think the Jets defense is going to make it that easy. I don't know exactly what the weather could be an issue depending, but I just like the 9.5 points in the division. I like the Bills to win the football game, but give me those 9.5 with the Jets. Hope to get one against you. Jets plus 9.5, my first pick.
Zach Wilson did start that first game. Yes, you should know that, but that's okay. All right, second selection for me. So the history between the Bengals and Browns, perhaps I screwed this up. Cleveland has won 5 consecutive meetings in the series, which would mean that Joe Burrow has never beaten the Cleveland Browns. 5 straight in the series for Cleveland over Cincinnati. They won 8 of 9 overall. Andy Dalton was the quarterback for Cincinnati the last time they beat the Cleveland Browns. Browns beat them 41-16 in their building last year. Shouldn't be hard for the Bengals to get going this week. I mentioned the home field advantage. Obviously, Deshaun Watson didn't pass the eye test in start number 1 for the first time in a long time. First meeting between these two teams this year, as many of you know, Monday Night Football. The Browns beat the Bengals 32-13. Only 10 rushing attempts that night for Cincinnati, 44 for Cleveland. Controlled time of possession, controlled the line of scrimmage, controlled the game. And now the Bengals are -6 against Cleveland. All of that history suggests you shouldn't be laying the 6, but I'll do it. Cincinnati -6. I think the Bengals have staying power. They're getting healthier. Jamar Chase goes over 140 receiving yards. Bengals -6 at Cleveland. They put up a 30 rack and win it going away.
Yeah, interesting. Hard to know what you're going to get from Deshaun Watson, but just a fragment of himself. Anyway, yeah, I guess I lean that side. That's not in my 5. My second selection. See, and strategically, I might want to try and get on a spot here that you may be on. So I should really put these in order. You
just stay in your own head and do your thing. I mean, how about the conviction with my Cincinnati play? We may not get it home, right? Certainly did our homework on the series, though. What were you saying now?
My second selection, the Steelers -2.5 home to the Ravens. No Lamar Jackson. Tyler Huntley will have a week to prepare this time, but last year I believe 1-3 as a starter, Tyler Huntley. So the Steelers, to me, even with a losing record, I alluded to this earlier in the program, are going in the right directions. The Ravens weren't necessarily playing that well with Lamar. I think the Steelers have a real chance to squeak into that 7 spot. I can't believe I'm saying it. I think Kenny Pickett's getting better, and I can't get enough of Mike Tomlin. I think it hasn't been announced that Lamar is not playing, but it seems very likely he is not. The line, I think, reflects that, but I think if it's really announced, it's going to go over 3. I like the number here with the Steelers -2.5. I like rooting for Mike Tomlin on Sunday. Give me the Steelers -2.5, my second play.
I like that selection. My third pick. Who's going to pay Geno Smith this offseason? I don't know what his contractual status is exactly. I believe he'll be a free agent, but I would imagine he'll stay in Seattle. I really don't know. That probably sounds pretty ignorant. Seattle -3.5 home to the Carolina Panthers. Panthers coming off the bye, so perhaps that's factored into the number. I think that's neither here nor there. The Seahawks are in the hunt. They're 7-5. They're a game back divisionally speaking, and I just like Geno Smith. I like this passing game. Obviously, Ken Walker runs hard. Geno Smith coming off historically what was the best game of his career in a lot of respects. 3 touchdown passes, career-high passing yards, I think 367. And, yeah, I mean, I understand with Carolina, Baker Mayfield's no longer walking through that door. It's the Sam Darnold show, and he and DJ Moore seem to have a connection going. But, Yeah, Geno Smith, as Zach Phillips tells me, unrestricted free agent end of the year. Maybe the New England Patriots want to have Geno Smith under center. But give me Seattle minus 3.5 against Carolina. They'll probably win by 3, and I'll get burned. But I like the Seahawks to win that game. And money line play for me on Seattle. I think they get that done somehow, some way.
And you gave out a line there of 3.5 on Seattle?
Yeah, what do we got? You got 3 for me?
No, I have. Well, I saw it at 4.5. Now I see it in DraftKings at 4. But what's interesting is you're talking shit. I almost, instead of saying the Steelers there, I almost went with the Seahawks there, and I would have gotten that one. Now I don't get that one. I had the Seahawks minus 4.5. So that goes away. What I will say about the Seahawks quickly, and the reason I like them this week, they get to 7-5
minus
with
3.5 right now.
It's fine.
I should put this in. If you're telling me that it's 4.5 in a lot of other places, I'm going to put this in right now. It's 3.5 right now. Let's go.
All right. So just quickly, and forgive me if you said this, but they're 7-5 with the road win at the Rams. But they have the 49ers at home this coming Thursday. You might have said that 5 days from Sunday. So that I think is interesting. It's a quick turn. And then at the Chiefs the following week. So to me, it's like Seahawks, you got to get this one. I know the Panthers off a bye, whatever. So anyway, but I cannot be on the Seahawks. So I am replacing. Actually, I'll save. I was looking up a replacement there, which I have. But my third selection is now the 49ers minus 3.5 versus the Buccaneers. I'm fine with Brock Purdy. I alluded to that earlier. I started the fucking show with him. I think San Francisco is going to make it a miserable day for Tom Brady. Make him hope he's wearing that red jersey out in his hometown of San Francisco next year. I think there's a chance that happens. And you said that last week, I think you see Brady in that uniform. For me, the 49ers versus the Buccaneers, a miraculous comeback, obviously down 13, win by a point, score with a couple touchdowns last 5 minutes, best comeback for Brady since the 27-3 deficit against the Falcons in the Super Bowl. I think it's going to be a miserable day for them. And I think Brock Purdy actually having a win and having a week of practice, I just think he's going to be sufficient. I like San Francisco there, minus 3.5. My third selection, Niners, minus 3.5 versus Tampa Bay.
I'm going the other way. Tampa Bay plus 3.5. I think they can ride this wave a little bit. I do think they have a lot of weapons offensively, and I think Tom's going to make it a game. I really thought, as I said last week, even before the Jimmy Garropolo injury, that Tom Brady would be wearing that red and white next year, and the percentage, even if it went up 1%, there's a greater chance now. I think it's 50% chance that Brady goes out with one season in San Francisco and John Lynch from a general manager's seat makes that happen. I like Tampa Bay to maybe win this game. I like Tampa Bay plus 3.5. Right. I'll go the other way against you, and I should probably have to make my fifth selection. Well, no, we'll let you make your fourth selection.
Let me make my fourth. Yeah, exactly.
I was just trying to do you a favor because you just had to pivot on Seattle. You just had to pivot off of Seattle. I was just trying to do you a favor because you seem very much in your own head.
My fourth selection, Chargers plus 3.5 versus the Dolphins. Sunday night. I don't know if you saw this line anywhere else. I did see it at 3 other places. I just like the hook there. The Dolphins go at the Bills next Saturday, right? So 6 days away, potentially could lose 3 in a row here. Because I do like the Bills having lost against Miami earlier in the season to avenge that loss. I believe in the Dolphins much more than I believe in the Chargers, but I guess if you're forcing me to pick a winner, I'd probably lean Miami. I just don't see a blowout here. The Chargers still are in the mix here. I like them to keep it close. I like them in these primetimes game I alluded to before. I don't like going against the Dolphins. I'm not really trying to react to San Francisco here. I'm a little worried that the Dolphins are going to be very successful running the ball against the Chargers, which can open things up tremendously. I think that could bite me a little, but my fourth selection, Sunday night game, Chargers plus 3.5 versus the Dolphins.
Fifth pick for me, the Patriots offense has just been so bad. And even though we can look at Ramondre Stevenson, looks like a most valuable player every time he touches the football, catches it out of the backfield, runs hard. He never goes down the first time. But, as a team, they're only averaging 104 rushing yards a game. Bottom feeding offense. And they're favored at Arizona. Kyler Murray has only gone against Bill Belichick once. Pretty uninspired effort. Interception. That happened at Gillette Stadium. I don't know, man. I think DeAndre Hopkins has a day. I think the Arizona Cardinals just have more explosivity on offense. And I don't know, man. I understand that historically these are the game New England wins, but the narrative locally right now is that the little things like timeouts and clock management that just used to be afterthoughts when the Patriots would win on a weekly basis. Now are considerations and things they're not even getting right. So how do you shore that up in a week's time? You got a pouting Mac Jones on the sideline saying our running game's trash. We need to throw the ball more. I mean, their issues go so far beyond that. Like, their own clubhouse, their own doghouse is so not clean, and they're favored on the road. I got to take the 1.5 with Arizona.
Well, so I'll just say there, and I think that Arizona clubhouse potential, a lot of bad sort of vibes to me, whereas I do think the Patriots will be professionals and show up to play. I like everything I see from Mac Jones on the sidelines. I feel for him. A lot of the stuff that I was saying on our show early in the season, a lot of people are saying now, like, what a fucking joke with Matt Patricia running the offense. Like, I just think Mac.
Yes,
Mac
let
Jones
me just say for the record, you were right. I was wrong. You're smart. I'm not. Right. Whatever the line is from the movie. No, but I didn't like your adjective calling Belichick senile, some of the things, but you were spot on. I mean, you saw a million red flags going into the season. You echoed it for anybody to hear. I was dismissive of that narrative, and I couldn't have been more wrong. You couldn't have been more right. So you're still probably going to lose head-to-head with me, but credit you on that one.
Well, and ultimately, I like the Patriots this week just because I sort of like that matchup. Like you said, these are the games.
Not in
Patriots.
your 5.
No. But Kyler Murray and these types of running, like, what if you're going to be right, what's going to happen is broken plays. Tyler Murray's going to be running for first downs. All Patriots are super weak in that area and have been over the years. When these plays break down, these running quarterbacks have all the space in the world to operate against the New England Patriots, it seems like, for me. But anyway, my 5th selection, which was a little bit of adjustment, I'm shocked I'm doing it. I'm taking the Lions -2.5 hosting my purple and gold Super Bowl selection, the Minnesota Vikings. I'm just believing in the in the Detroit Lions. I like their coaching staff. I like their coordinators. And I think a little bit of house money still at 1-6, the fact that they're alive. I hope I'm wrong here. I'd like to see Minnesota go in, but I think Minnesota in this spot, there's the juggernauts in the NFC would be favored here. The 49ers would be favored here at Detroit. So to me, and certainly the Cowboys and the Eagles. But to me, I just like the Lions here. This might have been my last game out, but I think it's a little bit of a fun pick here because the Seahawks would have been who I would have liked to go to. So my 5th selection, Lions -2.5 to keep the train rolling against some Vikings at home.
Minnesota Vikings at Detroit, and then they're home for the Colts and the Giants. They should win both of those games, and then they close it out at the Packers and at the Bears. 10-2 in Kevin O'Connell's first season. Unbelievable. That really feels like overachievement at 10-2, but I can't say that the Lions are going to be in my 5. I'd be on that side, though. I'm not fading them anymore, that's for sure.
Yeah. Nothing like the National Football League in the 7th playoff spot, that extra playoff spot in each conference. I don't even know if I had a strong opinion at the outset. I don't know how strong opinion I have about the only one team getting a bye, but that extra playoff spot is very interesting. In fact, the Raiders, I absolutely believe in both conferences, 9-8. You have a real chance to get in the postseason. Even the Patriots team, like it's 6-6, Chargers. Now, I don't think a lot of these fringe teams can make much noise. I really think it's top heavy in a couple of these conferences. Like, I don't believe in the Vikings against those 3 teams. Cowboys, Eagles, 49ers, I think would have an easy time with the Vikings. I hope I'm wrong. My tickets hope I'm wrong. I certainly think, and even it seemed like the Ravens, I know Lamar's injured now, but I think the Bengals could creep on the Chiefs and the Bills, maybe the Dolphins, but I still think the cream at the top is untouchable in both conferences.
I guess we'll find out.
Appreciate it. Appreciate y'all joining us on Anik Squared, week 14. Man, it's getting down to it. For our great producer, Zach Phillips and Jon Anik, my name is Jason Anik. We'll see you next week. Appreciate you being with us. Yo, later.